Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric, and we're going to be talking more about my favorite light gun games on Teknoparrot, because a few weeks ago I did an episode dedicated to all of my favorite Sega light gun games. There's a ton of other titles that weren't made by Sega that I absolutely love, like Terminator Salvation here today, and you guys wanted to see more recommendations of games to play, so that's exactly what we're going to be doing. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, down below hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But Terminator Salvation absolutely delivers the goods when it comes to light gun gaming, and I absolutely love the theming. Terminator's always been an amazing franchise, even if some of the newer movies aren't the best things in the world. It's always fun for an hour and a half or 2 hours to live inside of the world of John Connor and just basically play around in the environments of the Terminator. I've always loved the character designs of the Terminators in and of themselves, and it comes across so well here in Terminator Salvation. Sometimes we're fighting in a big open air battle, other times we're fighting in dark horror environments where you can only tell where these other Terminators are based upon your flashlight and how you move the aiming reticle. It just 100% works, and the light gun shooting and action are on point. And just so you know, all of the games that I'm playing on this playlist, I'm using Gun for IR4, but you can pretty much use anything that can be a Windows mouse cursor. You can use Sinden light gun, any of the other modern light guns. You can even use a mouse or an analog stick if you so want. And again, I just love how over-the-top action-packed this game is. And poor dude there just got crushed by that silo. There's going to be so many Terminators to shoot, so many giant robots, so many different mechs, air battles. It's going to be action-packed from start to finish. It never lets up, and it delivers all of that intensity you want out of something like a light gun game. And it is one of those titles that just kind of hits all the right notes, from the action to the story to the set pieces to the different guns you can get when you're playing the game, the grenades. There's just so much to see and do, and I love all of the designs, and getting a giant wave of Terminators just running out of this fire trying to kill us. It just has such a cinematic vibe to it, even so much so you're getting a little bit of film grain, obviously fake, over the top as you play it, so it feels about as close to an interactable movie as you can get in a modern era. So if you never checked this one out before, again, I can't recommend it enough. Just mowing down all these Terminators here, it's so much fun, and trying to get through the entire section without taking a hit, you really do feel accomplished if you're able to manage it. It's just a title that I loved the first time I saw it in arcades, and now at home it's every bit as good as if it was on an arcade cabinet. Now, going from Terminator, a movie franchise, to Aliens, a movie franchise, we have Aliens Armageddon. I wouldn't say this one quite hits the same highs as Terminator Salvation, but it gets really close, and if you love Aliens as a franchise, you're going to absolutely enjoy this one. But this is an arcade cabinet. If you go to pretty much any modern arcade, you're going to see one on the floor. There's some reason or other this game just 100% hit when it came out, and it has been basically everywhere, and that totally makes sense. It is a super fun game, and while Raw Thrills is definitely a great arcade developer, they haven't been around as long as the Segas or Namcos of the world, but now they're giving us these franchises and genres that most of the main manufacturers really aren't touching that often anymore, and I do love that. And again, Aliens as a movie franchise is so much fun. Every single release is a good time, even if it's not, and the most recent Aliens film is 100% hit for me, so being able to go into this universe and just mow down some aliens, defeat the alien queen, and try to save what's left of humanity just works. There's just enough story here for you to understand what it is you're trying to do, but not so much that it gets in your way. And if you give me a flamethrower and let me gun down monsters in front of me, it's just something that I'm absolutely going to love. And just so you know, based upon how the reticle moves around on the screen, this is not technically a light gun game. It is using analog or XY sensors, so it's one of those things. You can actually play this with a flight stick if you want, but again, using a light gun and aiming at the screen is going to be the most effective amalgam of what you would actually play in arcades. And leave me a comment down below and tell me if you've ever seen this game in arcades before. I would be curious. I feel like most people are at least going to be aware of its existence, and I feel like a decent amount of you have probably played it at least once. But dude right there turned into a snack for this gigantic alien, and again, it just works. It's got some good horror, it's got some good gore, and it also has a fun soundtrack, so listen for 45 seconds and I'll be right back with more. I mean, the soundtrack works for what it's trying to do, and sticking with the overall monster theme here, we're moving over to Akuma Mortis Immortal. Now, this is a game that I and my Discord actually released for everyone to play. It is a canceled arcade game that only had like 4 cabinets out in the world on location test, and it was considered a lost media for decades. We were able to track it down, we were able to get controls hooked in on our own application, and it has since been added to Teknoparrot because it's been removed from the Patreon tier. It is a game I can recommend you guys check out. This is just straight up one of my favorite games of all time. A lot of times when I'm hunting for rare prototypes or unreleased games that I've never played before, nor has anyone else, you end up in a situation where you build up in your own imagination just how good a game is going to be because you're that excited to play it. And more often than not, what you actually end up getting is way less than your imagination actually told you. You build up the hype so much that nothing could really live up to it. But the first time I was able to play Akuma, I absolutely realized that it is pure Lycan horror janky goodness in all the best ways possible, and it now is one of my favorite games to play of all time, and I'm so glad I was able to, with the help of my Discord members, bring this to everybody so it is now playable by all and preserved for all time. Because it's one of those things, not every single game that is finished actually sees wide release in the arcades. When a game is near to done or sometimes even done, they will send out maybe 3, 4, or 5 cabinets out into the world for location testing to get player and operator feedback and to see how much money the machines are actually making on location. And something like Akuma went to that location testing phase and that was never seen again, but thankfully it is available, it is preserved, and you can check it out. And trust me, just give it the 35 minutes it asks of you. If you don't love it, it's not like you spent anything on it, and if you do, you're absolutely just going to be stoked because this game is strange, it's weird, it moves in ways that you don't expect, and the storyline is absolutely batshit crazy in all of the best ways possible. And it's just one of those titles I'm so happy I was able to find it with help of others, get it running, and make sure everyone can play this until the end of time because it definitely deserves to be experienced, and you can do exactly that today. Now, sticking with the horror zombie theme but moving over to a different franchise, Silent Hill the Arcade is definitely one of my favorites as well. Now go into this expecting a slower experience and a longer game. It takes over an hour to finish Silent Hill from start to finish, and for an arcade title that is absolutely obscenely long. But because the game is a lot of fun and delivers a lot of action, you don't really notice you're playing for an hour, but I know a lot of these games take 30 minutes or less, so if you have a limited amount of time, maybe wait until you have a bigger block to play Silent Hill. This is just basically a side story from the main franchise, obviously taking place in the Lycan genre, and people either seem to completely love it or completely hate it. Upon release, it didn't get that many good reviews. It definitely is slower paced and keeps more to that Silent Hill horror aesthetic, but that's really what I love about the game, and it's got some amazing set pieces and battles as well. It's just the type of thing, I think it's a hidden gem. Maybe you'll have a completely different read on it, but I'm sure most of you haven't actually played it before, and it is just one of those things. It's always surprising what games hit and what games don't. Some of my favorite games are considered to be only okay, and some games that are considered to be best of all times, I think they're decent, but they just don't hit for me, and that's really the thing about video games and subjectivity. Everyone has their own favorites, you're not quite sure why sometimes, but you get to enjoy it. And again, some of the set pieces and monster battles here, 10 out of 10 epic, but I'm going to give you a listen to the soundtrack because it is a Silent Hill game after all. 45 seconds and I'll be right back.
Grab that pipe! What? Hurry! Get away! Tina!
I can't stand it anymore.
I mean, horror atmospheric soundtrack, a deliciously and delightfully decadently bad voiceover from all of the actors. It has all the hallmarks of a great horror Lycan game. Because it takes place in the universe of Silent Hill, it's going to be a completely different vibe than anything. And because the Dead, so definitely play this one. I love it, maybe you will too. Now moving over to games that are very interesting. First we have Elevator Action Invasion. Now this is a game that if you read reviews online, and it is a relatively recent one, people are going to tell you it really isn't that good. and that's totally fair. I'm sure the people that reviewed it had their issues with it. I went into this game expecting not to enjoy it because I hadn't really heard anything good about it, and I will say it is a super competent shooter that I actually have a lot of fun with. It's over the top, it's absolutely chaotic, it's bright and ridiculous, all the things you want out of an arcade game, and the shooting is a ton of fun. Now I'm sure you've already noticed it would be hard to miss it, but this game is basically in tate or vertical mode, and also has a different aspect ratio on the screen than 4x3 obviously. So this is going to be something that if you played the arcade cabinet, there would be giant doors that would open and close depending on your viewport. And it is one of those things that obviously Teknoparrot or any other translation layer effort can't bring over because you can't have giant elevator doors in front of your computer. So if you ever see an arcade cabinet for this one, definitely still check it out because it's a lot of the experience. But as far as playing it at home is concerned, I just think the game is total B tier effort gold. It is one of the best games of all time. It is a little bit janky, it is a little bit ridiculous, but the shooting action is tight and concise, and that's what I really look for. Now personally, my taste skew more towards the horror atmosphere as far as the genre is concerned. The House of the Dead Scarlet Dawns, the Terminators, the Aliens, things such as that, even Akuma. But something like Elevator Action Invasion does hit, and I love all the colors they've chosen for it. It just has a vibe, it feels completely different than every other game I've shown so far on this video, and that's why I do like to include it and mix it up, because everyone out there has different tastes. They're gonna kind of gravitate towards different sort of genres or different sort of vibes, and Elevator Action Invasion totally gives you that bright, cheery, almost Time Crisis-y vibe, but from Taito in a completely different viewpoint. It's one of those things. Sometimes games get reviewed poorly and people end up loving them. Sometimes they get reviewed well and people don't really actually click with them. So Elevator Action Invasion, definitely not the best game on this list, but it is one that I have a ton of fun with, and I think a lot of other people are going to have fun with as well. Now moving over to the previous game in this series, this is Elevator Action Death Parade, and interestingly it is the one that reviewed better than Invasion, but I would say I actually like it slightly less. A little bit of a Mirror's Edge vibe going on in this one. There's something about the motion cadence, kind of feels like you're playing a game that was made up in CGI for film and television, where they can't actually show real games. You only see people playing air quotes video games in a movie and you know the game's not real and it doesn't look quite right. That is Elevator Action Death Parade. They were somehow able to capture that vibe in a real video game you can play, but again, it is a ton of fun. The shooting is concise, it is action-packed, and it is another game that you can check out today. And you'll see here you can even take branching paths, easy or hard, and that's where the elevator doors come in, and it has a fun soundtrack as well. I'm going to go ahead and listen for 35 seconds because come back, I still have more games to show you that I think you're going to want to play. I mean, the soundtrack works. It sounds like a pretty typical light gun action movie. As you get into this elevator battle sequence here with this boss's winged demon robot, I do like the character designs. They're a little bit basic. The game feels maybe like it was a little bit lower budget, but that's always fun because, again, not every single game has to be something like the House of the Dead Scarlet Dawn as far as the production budget is concerned. Games like this keep the arcades alive even if they aren't the best games in the arcades. It's a traditional game that isn't spitting out tickets to redeem for cheap prizes at the front of the arcade, and honestly we have to celebrate that. But if I had to pick one game out of this list that I absolutely can't recommend enough, it is Terminator Salvation. It just does absolutely everything I want out of an arcade light gun game, and the best part is it delivers that vibe that I'm always looking for. But if you like this video, recommend another genre to do best Teknoparrot games in, and you might see it on the channel. But we're done. I'm going to shoot some Terminators, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.